I remember around the mid-1980s when all the kids in my neighborhood started to get older. We all got our driver's license and first cars. We were all becoming adults now, and it was important for us to go out and explore life, sometimes on solo missions and sometimes as a group. I remember one late summer's afternoon driving down a back road with a friend of mine when suddenly he pulled over on the side of the road. "Hey, you want to do something really weird?" he asked. "What's that?" I answered. "We're going to go explore an old graveyard," he replied. I really didn't think that was too weird, so I just answered, "Yeah, whatever, let's do it." We proceeded to get out of the car and walk into this wooded area a few feet where there was this old graveyard. It looked like nobody had been there for years. Apparently, my friend had gone graveyard exploring with one of his older siblings, and he thought it was kind of cool to do. It was my first experience in roaming through such a place and looking at the old headstones, but I soon felt that it was one of the most peaceful things, one of the most peaceful places I've ever been in my life. Graveyards always had the reputation of being haunted or scary, but I didn't feel that way. And that began a trend for me of being an old graveyard explorer. If I see one, I have to go in, look around, look at the old headstones, and just bask in the peacefulness and the quiet of this sacred place. In the latter 1980s, I began writing poetry. I carried a notebook and a pen with me everywhere I went because I never knew where I was going to find inspiration. So one day I got this idea to go to one of the local graveyards. Graveyards are peaceful, they're quiet. Certainly I would find some inspiration there, so off I went. This turned into a habit for me, just going to the graveyard, writing poetry, thinking, meditating on nature. There was one local graveyard in Middletown, New York, where I used to live, that kind of became my home away from home. I always said it was like being in my own living room to be in this graveyard. Nothing strange ever really happened there at first. I actually went to this place for a good handful of years just to write, to walk. It was well kept. The roadway around the graveyard was paved. So I would just walk, I would think, I would write. It was just a place where I could be alone with my own thoughts, with God, and it was a very tranquil place to be. But over time, I noticed if I happened to be there at dusk or when it turned dark, I would start to see things in the graveyard. If I happened to be walking around the path that encircled the graveyard, I would see someone ahead walking toward me. And I thought it was another person who might be just hanging out in the graveyard because eventually, or every so often, you would go there and there would be someone just walking because there was a nice hill there. So some people, I guess, would use it as their track or their gym. They would park their car and walk around the perimeter of the graveyard. Or you would just see people like hanging out. I over the years found that it wasn't such a strange thing just to go to the graveyard and have peaceful alone time. A lot of other people apparently did this too. So when I saw these people walking in the graveyard, and I thought, oh, it's just someone else taking a walk, hanging out. But then as they would get closer, they would just evaporate into thin air. And after a while, this became so frequent an occurrence that I felt like I was in the graveyard with a crowd of people because everywhere I went, and sometimes I would go there at night. Now I was curious. I went at nighttime just to see if I would see anything, and sure enough, there would always be someone walking around, and as they got closer, they would just vanish into thin air. I would see orbs of light floating among the tombs, sometimes hear a voice saying a word, and even lights in the sky. Many times in that graveyard, there would be strange lights just kind of hovering in the sky there 1 minute, gone the next. I mean, at first I wasn't so sure what to make of it because spirits can be a little territorial. Some hauntings can be a little spooky, but these apparitions never did anything that was frightening or seemed threatening toward me. And didn't take very long before I would go to the graveyard and see these phantom people walking around or walking toward me. And I didn't feel any apprehension at all. I actually started talking to them when I seen them, just saying, hello, good evening, how are you? You probably know me. I've been here enough for, several years now, just writing and doing my thing. And I respect this place. I respect the land. I respect you being here. And it was very interesting once I started doing that because when I would go into that particular cemetery, I felt a very welcoming feeling. I felt like there was someone there who appreciated the fact that I appreciated this place. And sometimes I thought, is this all my imagination? Am I just having kind of optical illusions when I go to the graveyard? Because after all, it is a cemetery. Cemeteries are supposed to be, at least a lot of them, haunted and there's spirits walking around. So one night I was together with my brother and a couple of friends, and I asked them if they wanted to go to the graveyard, and they agreed, no particular plan. Let's just go there and take a walk, hang out, shoot the breeze. Yeah, sure. We all went there, together once in a while. I never said anything to them about the spirits and the phantom people. But we went to the graveyard. It was dusk. It got dark, and we were all kind of hanging out. And some of us branched off and took a lap around the graveyard. And soon into the evening, one by one, and my brother was one of them, and one of my friends came and said, while I was walking around this place, I saw someone like walking toward me, and I thought it was one of you guys, but when I looked up and they got closer, they just disappeared. And they were like, I think this place is haunted, man, because I'm seeing these people like walking the path or coming through the tombstones, walking toward me, and then they're just gone. So that really confirmed for me that yeah, there's someone here, and they're quite active at nighttime. And this says to me that when we think about spirits or places that might be haunted or inhabited by people that are no longer here in this world in physical form, we often get creeped out, we get afraid, it's ghosts, spirits, hauntings, but they're not all bad. And I know I share some scary stories that I've experienced or heard from other people on this particular channel, but I've also experienced some very positive, loving, just joyful spiritual activity in my life. And this happened to be one of them. Just the feeling I got when I would see these people walking through the graveyard and coming near me, and I would say hello to them. I just felt they never spoke back, but I just had that feeling that they were glad to see me, and they, like I said, appreciated that I appreciated this place and respected them and their final resting place. And so it also says to me, we shouldn't be afraid of this kind of thing. There's probably as much fear mongering when it comes to the paranormal as there is in any other genre of life that we don't understand, whether it's UFOs or strange creatures, out in nature that we don't know about or we don't often see or that are strange to us. Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean that it's there to hurt us or that it's bad or evil. And sometimes people get very freaked out when there's spirit activity in their homes or somewhere else for that matter, particularly if the spirit is maybe a little playful or trying to get their attention because it actually wants some kind of help. Maybe it's lost or confused. It hasn't gone to the light yet for whatever reason. And sometimes these spirits will manifest or make noise, rattle things, knock on walls. It can be kind of scary, to see your coffee cup just kind of pick up off the kitchen table and then set itself back down. But sometimes it's just their way of letting us know that they're there, or they're trying to interact with us. They have no ill will toward us, or as I said, maybe they're looking for some kind of help because they're afraid or lost or confused. And I often asked when I would see the spirits in the graveyard, if anyone here needs help, please let me know. But no one ever, I was never approached, and anything trying to get my attention in a hectic way. It all seemed very peaceful, so I don't know. Maybe those spirits were always there and they seen me there enough times that they were making themselves known. Maybe they appreciated the company, maybe they were just saying, hey, thank you for respecting this place, where we all are. I don't really know what the cause of that was. But I don't think anybody ever really needed any kind of help in crossing over or anything as that, because these spirits seemed very content and very peaceful. And a lot of times, spirits are, whether they're in our homes or somewhere else, they're not looking to purposely scare us or hurt us or run us off. Sometimes they're just as curious of us, I think, as we are of them. And this encounter in the graveyard was also very positive for me because it was kind of a nod to me to say, yes, there is an afterlife. We don't cease to exist when we leave this world. I mean, to see something like that over and over again and then have other people experience the same thing, that you've never said anything to them, about this. They've never heard of it, you've never discussed it with them, and then they're seeing these apparitions walking around as well. It's very comforting and very confirming. And I almost get the sense that maybe that's what they were there doing, confirming to me that there is a life beyond this life. Because many times if I would go there to write, if it was a nice day, particularly in the fall, I would just walk around. I would think, I would pray, I would talk to God. Um, I would just have a very kind of spiritual moment in that cemetery. And I almost got the sense that they were there saying, hey, we're attracted to this energy. We're showing ourselves to you because of this energy that you're putting off. And we're kind of confirming to you again that there's an afterlife, there is a spirit world, there is a God. And that was really the vibe and the energy that I got there most of the time. I think a lot of us here in the English speaking Western states, we have such a fear and kind of a dark, morbid outlook on things like spirits, ghosts, and even death. We're very fearful of these things. But there are other cultures in the world, even today, that are very, very comfortable with that kind of thing. They're not afraid. They don't fear the spirits, whether it's they call them their ancestors or the spirits of the land. They look at life as or death as a transition to the next world, and rather than cry and mourn and fall into depression, they actually celebrate this person's birth and crossing over to the next life, the next world, the spirit world. I think it's too easy for us in the Western states to look at these things and go, "Oh my God, it's evil, it's scary, it's demonic." And you know, it can be those things. I mean, some hauntings, some spirits, they're not all Casper the Friendly Ghost. Sometimes you run into some pretty nasty buggers out there in the paranormal field. But I would say 8, sometimes 9 times out of 10, it's nothing like that. And I think that that's something that we have to change in our thinking. You know, our religions, the organized churches and the televangelists, for far too long, I think these people are just as bad as Hollywood in depicting all that stuff as being scary and evil and run and oh my God. Yeah, if we read the Bible, we see people, even Jesus, interacting with angels and spirits. Jesus spoke with Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration, and Moses and Elijah were long dead at that time, so they were definitely manifesting themselves to him in spirit and communicating with him. So for anybody to take the idea that all of these things are evil or of the devil from the Bible, I think that's kind of cherry picking verses that we've been trained to cherry pick through our religious training that may not have been 100% accurate at times. As I've said, I've had some very positive spiritual encounters in my life. I know other people that have had positive encounters with spirits in their lives. There are many out there, and if you read about this kind of thing, haunted places, life after death, you find, of course, there's a lot of things that are spooky, and I find that very fascinating. But there's also a lot of positive encounters where spirits reassure or even help people. And I think those folks at the old Pine Hill Cemetery in Middletown, New York, they they definitely had a positive mission. They felt very friendly, very reassuring, and it's one of the things that I think about often when I think of spirits or the afterlife or death. I really think that they brought a gift to me and showing themselves to me and letting me know that they are there and there is something beyond this particular material life, and also the gift of everything we see in this material world that we don't understand or that is spiritual isn't always scary. And maybe they are there to bring us some information or a gift or a different outlook on life and the life beyond. I think sometimes God allows spirits to do this for us because I personally believe when we die, our mission here in this world isn't over. I believe that we as spiritual beings still continue to pray for and work with people in the land of the living to help them become enlightened, to help them overcome obstacles in their lives, and even draw closer to God. So, those folks over there, I think they're very much on the mission field as much as some of us are on that mission field here. I don't think it's like some people believe we're just floating around in heaven or on the clouds and this earthly life is long forgotten. We don't think about it anymore. We don't have any doings with it. No, the spirits never come back. I don't think they come back. And it's hard to say because I do believe that some spirits get trapped in a certain place. But I also believe that sometimes spirits do come back, and perhaps that again with permission of the divine for a particular reason. And I think those folks in that cemetery were certainly there for a particular reason because, like I said, when I first started going there, I mean, this was, I went there for a good few years just writing and having like me time away from all noise and people and society and work. And I never seen anything. I mean, this took a good couple of years of being in that graveyard before I started seeing these things, these people, these orbs, or hearing maybe a voice call out a word that I couldn't quite decipher. So to say the graveyard was haunted, I don't really think so. I certainly look at it more that they were there for a season, for a purpose. There was something they were trying to show me or tell me. And I feel that those things I mentioned previously are pretty much what they wanted to show me and tell me. So that's all for this video. I just wanted to make one that was not scary because I don't want anyone to get the impression that all spirit or paranormal activity is evil or scary or creepy. Because I share quite a lot of those here on this channel. So I don't want anyone to think I'm fear mongering over ghosts and spirits or anything like that. I'm just very fascinated in that sort of thing. I think I'm one of those people that sometimes like a good scare. I've always liked a good ghost story, a good scary movie. It's just who I am, I guess. And so if I hear somebody, that has one of these stories, of course I want to hear about it. If there's someone who feels they're being haunted by something unpleasant, of course I will offer to go explore, do the research, do the house cleansing. But also the spiritual and the paranormal can be friendly and positive as it was in this case in the cemetery. And I look back at that experience, if I had seen the first person walking through the cemetery that disappeared, or the first orb going around the gravestones, had I fled and never went back there going, oh my God, that place is haunted, it's so scary, I'm never going back, I never would have had that experience. I would have missed that whole positive, welcoming feeling, like I was there among friends when I would see these apparitions, these spirits walking around the graveyard. I would have missed that whole positive affirmation that there is an afterlife, and that sometimes spirits do interact with us in a very loving, friendly, positive manner. And it's also been my experience that everything in this world and everything beyond this world responds to love, even spirits. There were more than a few times where I went into someone's home that was being bothered by something that they felt was dreadful or scary. And I just had that feeling that someone was maybe lost or trapped, or maybe they were a bit angry over something, maybe some unfinished business in life. And just talking to that spirit in love, hey, I understand, I get it. Nobody's here trying to hurt you. It's okay to go to the light. You're not going to be judged. Look at it this way. The angels didn't come and drag you to hell the moment you died. So obviously, it doesn't work quite the way that we were told that it works in some of these churches, and just being very, very logical and kind and loving, the energy would just dissipate, and the person was never bothered again. There was no need for prayers or holy water or house blessings, just some actual reassurance. So I think when we run across situations where maybe there's something in our house or something we don't understand, I think the first thing we should do is talk to it in the name of God, in love. Just just be decent like we would to another human being. Because that person, that spirit that you're so afraid of, just might turn out to be a good friend in the end and bless you before they finally depart, as much as you bless them by helping them to go to the light. So I don't think we should fear these things. I think we know when it's time to pull out the big guns. I think we know and have definite signs that, hey, this thing or this person isn't very friendly, so it's time to do something a little more strong to deal with them or get rid of that spirit from our homes. But I think the old flight or fight response that we have in our, particularly the Western states, I often think is a mistake. I think it should be not run away and ask questions later, or don't ask questions at all. Um, I think if we speak to these things in kindness and love, most times they will respond in kind. And if they don't, well, then we know what we have to do. Anyway, that's my video for now. As I said, I just wanted to share an experience that wasn't so scary or creepy. I don't want anyone to ever get the impression that all spirit activity is something to be afraid of, because it's absolutely not. It's not all evil and demons and, you know, dark entities disguising themselves as, our departed loved ones and all this stuff that people believe. That's just going deeper down the rabbit hole of fear. And sometimes you may run into those kind of things, but again, when you do, you just know what you have to do to get rid of them. And any dark negative spirit is usually like a negative toxic person. They can only hold it together for so long. As far as, being good and acting like they're a good person or they're friendly, it starts to unravel pretty quickly, where it'll start to get weird, strange, ugly, creepy. And then, yeah, okay, it's time to break out the prayers and the holy water and the the Bible verses and all that good thing to, you know, oust these people or things, whatever they may be. But again, it's not always the case. Most times it's not. We have a tendency through Hollywood and the movies to think, hey, anything that happens that's paranormal, well, it's going to turn into Linda Blair with The Exorcist real quick. But that's not, so many times, not the case. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it had some helpful information and took a little bit of the fear of the unknown and the paranormal out of your life, and also reassured you that, yeah, there is a life after this life. We do go somewhere else, and I think it's very possible that we can interact with our loved ones or other people in this world, because when we die and go to spirit, like I said, I don't think we're complacent. We're just not sitting on the cloud resting. I think we're still doing work. We're still doing, to help people, to bring people to the light, to help people overcome, because that's our main reason in this life, is to love one another, to be good one to one another, to help one another. And I think that crosses over into the realm of the spirit as well. So, again, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was positive, and I'll see you all in the next upload. Peace and blessings.